What's up and welcome to Starblood Chronicles. You know me, Dragon Paw. And today, for my witches, goons, goblins, warlocks, fairies, and dragons, uh, we don't have a scary anything or nothing paranormal at all. Today is a short episode. It's more like a PSA, a public service announcement about not just an application that I use to contact UFOs, but even more of a broad explanation of what this group does. They go by the name of CE5 Disclosure Outreach. And what they do is they're more like the boots on the ground sort of people who get the message out to spread it through the communities, and they want to get leaders in any all over the world. They want to get people to spearhead their own little communities to broaden the awareness of Steve Greer's message about extraterrestrial disclosure, not only about free energy, but climate control, everything that we're arguing about in the world right now. The umbrella of it that no one's paying attention to is being open-minded to accepting extraterrestrials or extra dimensionals, as I call them. This episode, I'm talking to Nathaniel, and he spearheads one of the communities out of Texas, I think he said. And yeah, he's just going to give us some information, and stay tuned to the end so you can see how you can reach them and become an ambassador as well. So thank you and enjoy. So if you want to just start wherever you'd like, and just give us your name, and then go ahead, and I'll just jump in as you go.
Sure. First, thanks for having me. I appreciate you reaching out and inviting us on to your show. My name's Nathaniel Ware. I'm a Ce5 activist, Ce5 and Disclosure Project activist. And, back in 2009 is how I, got involved in this. I learned of it in 2009. And then by 2014, I'd learned enough, to realize the importance of creating awareness in our communities. And so me and a few friends put together this outreach event in our community, which was in North Central Texas. It was by our local university. And to our amazement, it was a huge success. I mean, in that we were able to reach a ton of people in the public, mostly college students, some of the younger minds, people who are more open-minded to these things.
Exactly.
But then also there was there were random passerbys that came along. One that we find funny today is there was a group of I can't remember what they're called, but they go door to door. They're religious, and they came up to us, and so they did their part, and then we started explaining ours, and to our surprise, they wanted to know more. anyways, whole other story.
Jehovah Witness. Yeah, Jehovah Witnesses.
That's right. There we go.
Yeah.
And yeah, so a whole other story in itself. So here we are, fast forward 10 years later, in
Right.
2024, we brought it back together, but this time we used some of our experiences that we'd accumulated over the years from our
Hmm.
professions. We're older, we're not young teenagers that were in college. We're just got a lot more life skills.
Right.
And so we applied that to this outreach, and we really push for it to be a worldwide effort, and that's what we're seeing at this point.
Yeah.
So it's kind
That's
of what we're,
cool.
yeah.
So, what made you guys want to actually like make a community outside of the app? What drove you guys to do that? Because I know the app does do that, or tries to anyway.
Yeah. So are you referring to Dr. Greer's Ce5 app?
Correct.
You know, the app is great, and there was actually a precursor to that, which was etcontactnetwork.com, which was Dr. Greer's. That's before the app
Okay.
came. And that is primarily for networking with other ambassadors to go out and conduct CE5s, and those are great and
Yeah.
essential. Um, However, there hasn't been an established uh, effort to
Right.
raise public awareness.
Right.
And so we realized that back in 2014, and we said, we should probably, you know, at least try and raise awareness in our communities.
Hmm.
At that time, we didn't even consider the rest of the world. We were just concerned about our local communities, as we should be. Each of us should be concerned because we are responsible for the level of awareness of our communities.
I agree.
And so, you know, that's how that kind of came about. Yeah, to answer your question. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
and it makes sense because when I started it in 2020, it was like it felt like that community, like no one wanted to gather or be with each other. It was all a separate thing. So the app was like it almost like what you guys are doing has to happen to bring more of the awareness about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two sides here. So the app is absolutely great for learning the CE5 protocols, knowing what to look for.
Hmm.
There's resources and references in there for you to further your education that goes beyond the scope of the app. But the networking aspect of it has been an issue, and a lot of people have noticed that they, for gathering or getting together for a CE5, most people actually don't use that
No
feature on the app. What most people are doing is they're on Facebook, and there's like CE5 Phoenix,
groups.
CE5, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's one of the downsides of it, but I think the pros outweigh the cons on the CE5 app,
Mm.
because I mean, at the end of the day, realistically, you don't need anyone to go out to do a CE5, and I'm sure you're
Ex-
aware of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Um,
used to be able to just meditate and I would still see things. I'm a user of the app, but I'm also an experiencer. So
yes, yeah, it's
yeah.
great. And there's a lot of people that are spiritual. There's a number of people who
Yes.
don't necessarily even need the app because they already kind of have those fine-tuned innate abilities, and so they are able
Yes.
to kind of utilize their own set of protocols or methods or what have you, and they can make contact. And that's
Hmm.
the beauty of CE5 or contact, whatever you wish to call it. It really doesn't have any confines. It doesn't. It's not a one-way fits all. At the end of the day, as long as you have altruism and your efforts are sincere, contact can happen. So,
Right. Right. So so what I'm getting from you is like your outreach is wider than just the app, correct?
yeah, it's kind of two different things here. So,
Okay,
the app,
let's go off the other one.
okay,
Explain more about the second or the other one that we're not talking about.
sure. So with outreach, our position really is, like I mentioned, to try and raise awareness. Eisenhower said in his farewell address, only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel, I think he says, the proper meshings or something, so on and so forth, to kind of get us out of where we are in
Yep.
today's society. And that's really our focus is to raise our own community's awareness, and but then also influence and encourage others to do the same thing for their communities.
Yep.
Because if you have, a community in, let's say, NorCal, SoCal, Texas, and different places, New Mexico, Arizona, and it's happening all over the world, different countries, Norway, England,
Yeah.
whatever, then all these communities are slowly gaining awareness. So here's some of the key
Right.
points that I like to focus on with this outreach. Let's say, for example, a group sets up a table in a high traffic area like we did, and maybe 100 people walk by. Out of that 100, maybe three stop by. And then there's an additional 250 that drove by within the hour or two that you were there.
Yep.
And so you have what, 350 people that at least seen the banners, they seen the signage, they seen the titles, Disclosure Project, Ce5. Out of that 350, there is a percentage that is going to Google it, whether it be right there or later.
Definitely.
They're going to look it up. And so then there's another percentage of people who go down the rabbit hole. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then there's another percentage of people who don't go down the rabbit hole, but then later, have a interaction at work or see something on the news or what have you, and then they look more into it. So it's in their subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's all these different perspectives that we have on the effectiveness of what we are doing. So in our opinion, even if nobody stops by and 350 people go by, that in our eyes is a success, because doing something is better than not doing anything at all.
Correct.
And
You're
so,
almost just like the brain. You're building dendrites
yeah,
and making more connections. And people, you can say it as much as you want sometimes, but it's up to them to put action into their life. And all you can do is say, "Look, here it is. Come find
yeah,
it
no,
when you
absolutely.
want it." Yeah.
You can lead a horse to the water, but only
Yeah.
the horse can drink, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of but at the end of the day, as long as we're trying to, at least if we're putting the water on their radar, like, hey, the
Yeah.
water's here.
We got the water.
Someday you might want to try this. Who knows? Um, so yeah, and then there's a couple other perspectives that we have when we're conducting outreach. One thing that we do not do is sell anything ever.
Right.
We're completely and totally opposed to trying to sell, because this is the work of many people. Dr. Greer, his
Yeah.
whistleblowers who have had, courageous whistleblowers who have come forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's immoral for us to try and sell anything that
Right.
is, their work. So that's one thing. Another
True.
thing is,
True.
we don't ever try and force or impose our message on people in the public. Like, we want them to come to us,
Mm-hmm.
because then we may be seen as a cult, which we're not, or a scientifically oriented research group and
Yeah.
proactivists. There's nothing political about it, so we don't try and
Nope.
force any kind of political on it. Um, you know, you know, when they come up to us, we also use discernment. So let's say they do
Mm.
choose to come up to us. The moment that they begin to begin to show, like, all right, I just want to take one of these flyers or cards or pamphlets and go. You got to kind of be able to recognize that and not try and
Mm-hmm.
like continue to talk their ear off, because that can actually be counterproductive.
It will be. They'll throw it away the next trash can they see.
Yeah,
If you're
exactly.
too imposing, yeah,
Yes, exactly. So that's a very important, mindset that we try and have everyone be on the same page with, because
I like it.
obviously, yeah, you don't want to do that. So, and then there's a few other little, things that we want, we really recommend and suggest people understand. And, one of those things is, allowing the listener
Mm-hmm.
to direct the flow of the conversation. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, with Ce5 disclosure, the serious disclosure, there's three aspects that Dr. Greer talks about. There's
Mm-hmm.
the disclosure aspect, secrecy. Then there's the energy, technologies, advanced technologies, the physicists, engineers, etc.
Zero
And then
point.
there's the exactly. And then
Hmm.
there's the energy, or sorry, then there's the consciousness aspect of it, which encompasses Ce5 contact, human abilities, the human
Mm.
extraterrestrial relationship, etc. And so what we found is when we interact with people in the public, most, it, most, I mean, this is not even
Hmm.
close. Most of them have at least one of those things that they're familiar with. Like, oh
Oh yeah.
yeah, I've heard of Tesla, blah, blah, blah. Or, oh yeah, oil companies are definitely involved in this in banking. And, like they know these things. A lot of
Yeah.
people are familiar with this nowadays. And then there's, some people who are like, oh yeah, chakras and,
Yeah.
meditation and,
That's
like
me.
they
I'm
have
in that group. I'm in the chakra group.
everybody's got a little piece of the puzzle.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is trying to put together, there's two things we're trying to do. We're either trying to help put together the mosaic in a condensed, easy to understand version,
Hmm.
this disclosure project mosaic that Dr. Greer talks about,
Yeah.
or we're trying to refer them to where they can learn more and put that mosaic together on their own. So there's one or two. It just depends on that individual. It's
I like
always
that.
dependent on the level of the individual.
Yeah.
And so,
I
yeah,
like
that's what
that. I
we're.
like that you guys offer that safe space for all those different categories.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because I think one of you guys said on your YouTube, it's a service, not a sale, and I like that.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
good.
So true.
Hmm.
On that, I do want to clarify just for anybody who's listening, with Dr. Greer, he does sell things,
Yeah,
such as
of course.
merchandise. He sells, tickets for these things. But what a lot of people don't know, and I'll explain in a moment my involvement with the Disclosure Project, which is at a limited capacity, but enough for me
Hmm.
to kind of have a little insight on what, this is why this is happening. Because a lot of people are confused and say, terrible things about Dr. about him wanting money and he's a grifter and shit, excuse me, stuff like that.
That's fine.
Well, Dr. Greer, on all these whistleblowers that he's flying to DC, to meet with
Yeah,
these different offices or individuals, that costs a lot of money. But that means book, room and board,
yeah.
any other expenses that are involved in it. Then, in order to have, let's say, an event out in, wherever, California,
Mm.
you, some of these events, they cost like 200 and $250,000, and I know that firsthand because I've been involved in some of finding some of these
Mm.
locations.
Yep.
And you know it, that is a platform where people can come forward. It's not like he can just go to your local library and have a pop-up with 500 people. You can't just do that. You have to find a facility or conference space,
Yep.
and that's the requirements on that. And I've seen firsthand how that happens. I mean, and then people got to remember, Dr. Greer is a retired emergency medical doctor. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, he's put his whole life on the line, or
Hmm.
his with his family and everything, $250,000 per year or more that he just completely let go. So like, I don't see how anybody can say that. So yeah, that's a side note, but
Yeah, but people don't understand how dangerous he puts his position is too. That
yeah,
costs money for protection and other things that just, yeah,
yeah, exactly, without a doubt. Then of course the whole team, he has to be
you
able
got to
to,
you got a team.
yeah,
You got to feed the team.
yeah, exactly. And the only other thing is, or, kind of switching, gears here, going
Hmm.
into my involvement with the
Right.
Disclosure Project. Again, it's been at a limited capacity. Um, I've helped to look for conference spaces, and I was fortunate to be selected as a volunteer at one of their events out in California.
That's cool.
And so that's kind of how it gave me some of this insight. With what we're doing, we've been working with some of the senior uh, Disclosure Project staff members. They've been advising us and have been supportive of what we're doing, and in many cases have been, or are directly involved with what we're doing and oversee what we're doing. In fact, the materials, the presentation and distribution
Hmm.
materials that we've put together uh, for public distribution, um, were we had to submit as submittals to the Disclosure Project for approval.
Oh, so
And
you can't just make these things and
I
give
mean,
them
I'm
out.
sure I'm sure you could, but we wanted to go, the
Legit.
moral route. Yeah,
Yeah,
and kind of request permission to, hey, look, this is what we're proposing to do. Is this acceptable? And they said yes. And then so we just submit
that's
each
cool.
time we have new creations, and they approve them. And then now moving into what that means for the future is these materials that have been approved, they're now looking to have put on their website so that people can get these materials
Mm,
and then use them, help to raise awareness in their communities.
right.
Now, with what we're doing, it's great, but we don't care about publicity or fame or nothing like that. In fact, we wanted to kind of close shop and just worry about our communities. That's it. Not trying to
Yeah.
influence others. We'll just worry about our community. Once Dr. Greer took this up and started saying, hey, look, this is what's happening around the world now. There are ambassadors in all these different countries, which there are,
Hmm.
most of the states in the U.S. that are doing what we're talking about here. And from there, he has a farther reach than we do, and he can start, pushing that, and there are a lot more people who get involved. So that's the whole idea behind that. That's kind of our phase two of the project. I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but that's what we're
No, that's
considering
fine.
the phase two part, where we kind of discontinue our um, efforts online to encourage and inspire other ambassadors, Ce5 ambassadors or disclosure project activists to get involved. And then he takes that up, and then we can just go back to doing outreach in our community.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They always, it's always, I forget who says it, but she was a writer, and she says, always start in your backyard. When you want to do something, start in your backyard and build from there. And that's kind of what you're reminding me of.
Yeah, no, that's a
But
good little quote.
I have one last question for you,
Yeah.
just so the people understand. What, how important is Steve Greer's message to the world?
In my opinion, I don't think that there is any other, message or messages that are more important than what he's sharing. The implications are so profound,
Hmm.
and that there, to me, it trumps every other it trumps every other topic that's going on. I mean, when you
Really
think about
does.
all these little trivial things, like, and some people may dislike what I'm going to say here, but you know, whether it be gun rights, your Second Amendment, like,
Those are
or
trivial compared to what's
yes,
really going on
the
above our
green,
heads.
the green, green energy. Whenever we talk about the wars that are going on, no,
Hmm.
we start talking about this, we take care of this, we get this situated, this.
Hmm.
There is no, I forgot who says this, but there no aspect of life will be left unchanged by the disclosure of this. So as
Hmm.
soon as this comes out, everything else changes. It's kind of like, that's the core root of all the problems
It
and
really
issues that
is.
we're experiencing today.
If we can
So
accept what he's telling us, we can trickle it down to all of those trivial things that we have around us.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So to answer your question, it's paramount. It's probably the most important message in human history, in my opinion.
exactly. That's cool. So
So
why don't you tell people where they can find you guys and how they can reach you online or whatever, anywhere, any platform.
sure. So you can reach us on Instagram. That's our primary, area where we work. CE5 underscore disclosure underscore outreach. You could also reach us on Facebook. Same thing. CE5 disclosure outreach, or on YouTube. Same thing. CE5 disclosure outreach.
Sweet.
You can also reach out to me directly. Or you could reach out to Frida, um, online, Frida or Renata. You just go to the page and you can find them. If you don't get a response right away, you'll see Frida or Renata on there, and just reach out to them.
Cool, brother. I'm gonna tag you on this video so you can clip it and use it too, however you want.
Awesome. I was going to ask, you don't mind us with sharing this worldwide, or massively, because I'm going to ask a lot of the people who follow us to share this.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be great. I don't know, it might go out this weekend or just depending on what I can get done today because I have a lot of other stuff to do. but definitely gonna put it out ASAP.
Yeah, sounds good. I got one more thing for you. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
go ahead.
share with your listeners and anybody who tunes into this. It's so important that we realize that, this is just as much our responsibility to raise awareness and to disclose than it is any official, elected official or public figure. And so we need to really, you know, uh, prepare ourselves, become knowledgeable enough of these,
Hmm.
what's really going on, and then begin sharing it in any way that we feel comfortable, in any way that we're able to, for our own communities, and know that others are doing the same. And then that we're collectively raising the awareness on this planet. I mean, we've really got to take that to heart, get out there and do what we can to help. So,
I agree 100%. That's why this podcast is named Star Blood Chronicles. All
appreciate it.
right, brother. Maybe we could link up again and do this again. I thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Thank you for
Thank you,
your
sir.
time. Now we know we're 3 hours apart. So,
Right. Right.
all right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks. Thanks. You as well. Bye
Bye.
bye.